Hello, my name is Alexander. I'm going to walk you through some of the basics of Gucci.io and how you can use it because we'll be launching soon. Exciting. So at a high level, there's only a few things you can do on Gucci, but they allow you to play a few different strategies depending on how you view a native token on Cardano. So there's borrow and lending, which are pretty much the same thing, but depend on if you're putting an NFT in or if you're putting collateral in. There's also hodling the line, as we call it, which we'll talk about in a little bit and why it's called that. But probably makes sense to start out with borrowing as the top line feature of what you can do on Gucci. So in the initial state, there's a smart contract, which basically asks you to set a collateral amount, which is the amount the lender will get if you don't return an NFT to the smart contract, a lender fee, which is the amount you're willing to pay them for this service, the duration in days that you want the contract to be active for, and the policy ID of the token you want to be sent. This is very important. There is no such thing as a project on Gucci. There is only policy IDs because some projects span multiple policy IDs, and you really have to be aware of what you're entering into, that it is all around policy IDs. You don't get to set, but there's also an automatic platform fee of 2% of the collateral, which will go to us. So what happens first is, let's talk about something with around like 1,000 ADA floor to make the math easier. The borrower will say, I think I used Bosscat Rocket Club in the slide, so no disrespect to Bosscat Rocket Club. Bosscat Rocket Club has a floor of 1,000 ADA, so the borrower probably needs to set something like 20 to 50% higher than that to make the lender feel safe entering this for reasons that will be explained down below. So they say 1,500 ADA collateral, they're willing to pay 3%, and they want this live for 20 days. That means they have 20 days to return something back to the smart contract, or they will lose their collateral. And the platform fee is 2%. So they're going to send 1,500 ADA for the collateral to be locked in, 45 ADA as the fee, 30 ADA for the platform, and then 10 ADA as the deposit just to hold any NFTs that get sent in here. It'll be given back to them. This is important to note. There are a lot of fees that add up using Gucci. So you're really not, even if you're shorting something or wanting to short something, this is not to like do a 10% down thing. This is like you basically calling a bluff and saying, I think this is going to zero or significantly going to be dropping in value, because quite frankly, otherwise the fees don't make sense for you to do this. So you do that, and let's say once you've submitted that ADA into the smart contract above, what will happen is it will show up as a borrow offer on our website. That means that there's already ADA here, and they're looking for an NFT. So a lender would go, and they would say, "Oh, I have Bosscats. What are people willing to pay me to borrow my Bosscat?" So they'd click on the Bosscat policy ID on our dApps page. They'd see if your offer is the best one. They would probably select it. So what they'll do is they'll send a Bosscat that they are fine with being replaced by any other Bosscat with. So this guy sends in Bosscat 2341 to the smart contract. It gets sent back out to the borrower, and immediately the lender gets the 45 ADA lender fee, right, that the borrower will put in. The borrower then separately, he or she now has 20 days to return an NFT from the same policy ID back to the smart contract. So they can either use our hodls, which is something new, a collection offer, or they can try and list this NFT over on JPEG Store to sell it. They want to sell it for as much ADA as they can, because that's going to be important in determining how much money they make if the project drops in price. So they're not going to sell for 500 ADA or 400 ADA up here, because they need to capture as much value as they can for this to work out in their favor. So once they've sold this NFT, two things can happen. Either the floor, or actually three things. The floor can go up beyond the collateral, in which case the seller is not going to come back because there's no incentive for them to. The floor can go kind of sideways and stay under the collateral, in which case the borrower will do something to claim back their collateral, or the floor can go down. Let's do the quote worst case scenario first. Let's say the floor went to 2,000 ADA immediately after the borrower sold the NFT, and it stayed there for 20 days. This is kind of important. There's no liquidations on Gucci. So even if the floor goes instantly up, as long as it comes back down before the 20 days are up, the borrower has a chance to buy and repay the loan, because the lender just has to wait for the duration to be over to claim the collateral. So if the borrower does not come back to the contract, the lender has the ability after 20 days or however long the contract was to say, hey, the borrower didn't give me back an NFT, and they can claim the collateral out of the contract. So they would get this 1,500 ADA. That's why it's important that if you want to be really safe on Gucci, lenders should only engage in contracts for collateral levels that they would be happy to sell their NFT at. If you want to be a little bit more risky, you can set your collateral at levels you don't think the floor is going to go to. Because if you set it at like 1,500 ADA and the floor goes to 1,200 or 1,300 ADA, the borrower still has an incentive to buy an NFT and send it back to limit their losses. So that's a different way of using Gucci as a lender. But let's say the borrower was right and the floor after they sold for 900 ADA dropped to 400 ADA. What would they do? Again, they could use a HODL to buy another NFT from the collection, or they could go on JPEG Store or anybody else and buy an NFT for 400 ADA. Once they have that NFT for 400 ADA, they can send it back to the smart contract. The smart contract will send it back to the original lender, and the borrower will be able to claim their initial 1,500 ADA collateral, right? And think about it for a second. They bought an NFT for 400 ADA. They sold for 900 ADA. So they cleared 500 ADA on this process because they were basically able to sell something before they bought it. And that's all shorting really is. But if you notice, it involves a lot of transactions for volume. So it's going to be pretty good for liquidity. Lending, if we jump over here, is something a lot of people have questions about, like why would someone who's bullish lend out their NFTs? Because a lend is basically the same as the borrow. It's just started by the lender or the person with the NFT. This will go through pretty quickly, but we'll also touch on why you would do this as a lender. So again, a lend is, it's got collateral, a lender fee, the duration. In this case, you don't set a policy ID. The policy ID is inherited based on whatever NFT you send into the smart contract, right? So here, if the lender sends a Boss Cat Rocket Club number 2341 over, they can say, I want collateral of 1,500 ADA. I want the fee to be 3%, and I'm willing to do this for 14 days. So this is where we'll talk about why would someone who's bullish on a project help someone short their project. Well, if we just discussed, I don't know if this is accurate, but let's pretend the floor of this NFT is worth 1,000 ADA. When they set their collateral at 1,500 ADA, right, and they say that they're charging 3% for a 14-day loan, that means that they're getting 45 ADA. If you got, 3% of 1,500, they're getting 45 ADA, and they can do that 26 times a year, right? Because 14 days is 2 weeks. There's 52 weeks a year. You could keep lending this NFT or another floor NFT that you got back from it out, and you could potentially earn at these rates and this collateral level 1,170 ADA while maintaining your exposure to the project. So the way I like to describe this is like buying NFTs is kind of like real estate. You're buying a house in essence, but right now nobody is renting their houses out or their apartments out. They're just sitting in their wallet with no tenants, with no way to generate yield. So that's kind of what Gucci is doing. These percents and these collateral levels and the terms, the duration, it's a free market. People will set whatever they want. So if a lot of people want to lend and not a lot of people want to borrow, the rates will drop. But if a lot of people want to borrow and not a lot of people want to lend, borrowers will have to incentivize lenders to, get their NFTs out of their wallet. I will note again, you are lending out an NFT and you will get back any other NFT from the collection, or you will claim the collateral. So you should not put NFTs into the smart contract that you're not okay with being replaced with any other NFT. It's kind of like mint again, right? But with floor NFTs if the borrower is smart. So what happens here? They sent in their NFT and they set the terms. In this case, the borrower would look at the available lends, and if they want to borrow a Boss Cat, if you had made the best offer, they will send collateral into the contract with extra to cover the fees. They will get the Boss Cat, they'll go sell it. And again, the same thing that we talked about on the left-hand side for the borrow happens. It's really the same, so no really need to talk about this. One thing that we added in after we first announced Gucci was this idea of HODL, or it's really HODL the line, because what we're thinking about this is like a front line between bulls and bears to basically fight over where the actual price of a project is. Because what this is like the amount of ADA you are willing to pay for any NFT from that collection. And this is going to actually help people build buy walls underneath the floor, which I think will really change the whole NFT game. Because if you own a project or a policy ID, tokens from a policy ID, where there's actual support under the floor through this HODL the line feature, you can be a little bit more assured that if you need cash, you can turn that NFT into cash without having to go through the hassle of listing on an NFT marketplace, waiting for it to sell, hoping it sells, watching other people undercut you. No, you'll just be able to say, oh, look, I can send any NFT from this policy ID to the buy wall underneath the floor, and I can exit my position. So I think it's going to be actually probably the biggest impact that Gucci has on the NFT marketplace. So to make a HODL, you set the amount you're willing to buy for, the policy ID, and the platform fee is automatic. So if I want to buy a Boss Cat for 900 ADA, I will send 900 plus 18 plus 10 ADA to the smart contract. Again, the 10 ADA is just there to send the NFT back to you if someone uses your HODL. And the 18 ADA is only paid to us if your HODL is actually activated. If you cancel it, you can get that back. So if a seller comes to the Boss Cat page and sees that, oh, I can get 900 ADA and they need some cash, they can send a Boss Cat to that smart contract. It will send the Boss Cat back out to the person who made the HODL, and the seller will get the 900 ADA that was locked in the smart contract. So that's basically how things work on Gucci at a high level. I will be releasing another videos walking you through the actual screens and steps to do this on Gucci very shortly. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.